going to be an exception. I think most laws that have been implemented, I think maybe in even Alabama, there are exceptions for things like that.
Right.
There's just a morality aspect to the issue where
Definitely. Yeah, people act like it's very like black and white, but it's not. Like,
no.
You know, people aren't gonna like deny you because of like some criminal rape case. You know, like
yeah,
that's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome back to Youth Bombs. We're the voice young conservatives of Alachua County. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Hallie.
And today we're going to be talking about abortion. So first off, did you hear what Trump's newest stance on abortion was?
Yeah, I heard that. It's a new one. So
Right.
Let's just take a look-see here.
Under my leadership, the Republican Party will always support the creation of strong, thriving, and healthy American families. We want to make it easier for mothers and families to have babies, not harder. That includes supporting the availability of fertility treatments like IVF in every state in America. Like the overwhelming majority of Americans, including the vast majority of Republicans, conservatives, Christians, and pro-life Americans, I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious...
At the video.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to clip the video in, right? Okay.
Okay. So basically, he was just saying what the Constitution says now that Roe versus Wade has been overturned, that it's up to the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And like Ronald Reagan, and probably any decent person, of course, he's going to, you know, consider the exceptions of rape, incest, and the life of the mother. But other than that, he hopes that the states will choose to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, the rape and the incest cases, while they are horrible, it is a widely known statistic that they only make 1% of abortions.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know that if you were, like, going to, say, maybe Planned Parenthood's website, because their stats are just all messed up, because it's a business, you know? They're
Right,
like, oh, you know, abortions don't even make up a lot of our business, and it's like, when you know the reason why a majority of women are going to these clinics, and it's to get this procedure, and, like, it's like a business, and they're not reporting their services, but it's kind of upsetting, because it's like one thing I always say is like, oh, my body, my choice, my body, my responsibility.
Right.
Like, be responsible for your body and what
Yeah.
you do. Like, don't be sexually promiscuous, and then, you know, have unprotected sex, and then be surprised, right? Oh, I'm pregnant.
Right.
Like what?
And I think, like, people who are, like, mad about, or not mad, but, you know, didn't like what Trump had to say. I mean, at the end of the day, he has to say something. He has to take a stance on it.
Yeah.
And he took the most neutral stance that he could have by following the Constitution. But I definitely understand the religious standpoint. Or, like, very staunch conservative standpoint where it's,
and I don't even think, you don't even have to be religious. In my opinion,
really, you really don't.
It doesn't have to come from your Christian faith, your Jewish faith, whatever. If you're Catholic, you know, it's not a religious argument when you frame it like kind of how I see it, in that you need just to have respect for life.
Yeah.
Respect your fellow man, right?
Exactly.
Like that. Like at the end of the day, we're on a floating rock in space, right? So, so it's like, oh, it's not that deep, but like ultimately, having a value of life, I think, is really lost on society today.
It really is.
It's
and
really lost.
I don't really like how a lot of girls, how have I like seen it like personally? They just treated it like, oh, it's just like another thing that they're gonna do. It's just like it won't really affect them, and it's like, where's like the emotional attachment? Like what happened to caring about stuff,
being motherly, or like
exactly. They're really trying to get rid of the femininity, and I feel like they're really trying to get rid of motherly instincts in young women.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's really awful in my opinion for a lot of reasons. But.
Well, I think young women nowadays are told. They're told a lot of things, right? And it's up to you whether or not you want to listen to what you're told. You know, if someone says something rude to you, it does not mean that that is the end-all be-all, right? Oh, women can't do this. Screw you, right? So, like, okay. But I think the lack of respect for life, like the sanctity of life and how important it is, it's like
Right.
we're okay with donating for, baby pandas, save the baby pandas. It's like
Mm-hmm.
how do you not equate that to respect for a child, like a human
Human being,
being, a
yeah.
baby, right? Like every
Yeah.
time I see a baby, I'm like, baby fever. I'm like, I want me one of those, right? When they're like walking around with their little overalls, like how could you not love a
Yeah,
baby?
no, that's very cute.
When they're like screaming, obviously, but no, I think they're, I don't know, I feel like it goes way deeper. And like the hopelessness of what, like, our generation, like, oh, there's climate change and there's overpopulation and there's not enough food and everybody sucks anyway, right? So who cares if a kid goes into a high school and shoots up their classmates? Who cares if, like, I don't know, it's like I said, the sanctity of life, there's no respect. And you don't have to be religious to respect someone
Right.
and understand that life is a miracle. And all of us, we are so lucky to be breathing and to be here and to be able to talk to people and experience things and grow as a human being. Like you don't need to read that in a passage. No, you just have to have like an awareness and respect for life.
Right. Yeah, and respect for others too, like respect for relationships. I feel like that has really been ruined in modern culture for sure.
But yeah, I think like ultimately, of course, with exception of rape, incest, and like a myopic pregnancy, right? Like, oh no, I'm fully planning on having this baby, right? But something happened with my tube, something happened with the egg, and now my life is in danger. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like hypothetically, what if a woman had 2 children already with her husband, and then that third pregnancy, it went wrong.
Right, and that's a very like
Do you
specific.
do you really
yeah.
expect the woman to leave her children and husband if it's
Yeah.
her life on the line?
Yeah, like
I
don't
think it's
anyone
hard.
Would. Yeah.
It's such a hard, like, you have to be principled in your thought on that, but it's hard, like to expect those
yeah.
children to be raised by just one father,
Yeah,
or
it's mainly the abortions of people who are, number one, most likely unmarried, and number two, they just were being frivolous and they weren't planning on having any children anyways. Not really for looking out for health or whatever reason.
and that's always how it's freaking presented by the Democrat side. It's a woman's right? So I think Trump was just recently talking about it. Maybe not that clip, but he was saying, "Oh, it's a states issue. It's a states issue" to the reporters. And then Joe Biden's team, I know it's not him because there's no way he can. There's like no way, right? But his team tweeted or X posted whatever, like retweeted the clip of Trump and was like, "Oh, it's not about states' rights, it's about women's rights, Trump." It's like, oh my God, you are missing the point, dude. No, it's not women's rights. You shut up. Shut up. When I saw that, I was like, shut up. Shut up. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's annoying that the Democrats can get away with messaging like, oh, it's a woman's reproductive right.
Yeah.
It's our health care. No,
Well, how do you
it's
think
not
it will be
health
for,
care.
Florida in November, messaging that because it will be on the ballot.
I mean, I feel like it's gonna be bad if we don't get out there and we're not like fear mongering to women. Don't
Yeah.
fear monger on this topic.
Just lay out the statistics. I feel like laying out the statistics, being objective, laying out more scientific stance. Of course, I always respect the religious argument, but
Obviously.
if people aren't going to be fully on board with abortion or completely on the left, they're probably not going to be religious at all. So you're kind of like talking to the void in that sense.
Doesn't make
at that
sense.
point.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so this vote puts it in the Florida Constitution. Is more than a law.
It's a big deal.
Right.
It's a big deal.
So do you think, because Florida's, we like to think of it as this big Republican state, but it's more mixed than that. Do you think this create a lot of upheaval?
I'm concerned that we're gonna see turnout like we've seen in the other states when this amendment's on the ballot. I think it's gonna be it's up to Republicans before November. Get out there, start talking about the amendment, start looking at the wordage, right? If it's
Right.
confusing, then get your own script on it. Start door knocking,
Doing
start
your research.
talking to
Yeah.
people and say, hey, look, I know this might be a confusing amendment, but are you available to talk about it? And
Right.
yeah, like you said, don't come at it with the religious thing, because you might
Right.
just be talking to avoid a wall, right?
Right. And you also might be talking to a person who has experienced it personally, because Florida has the highest rate of abortions in the U.S., or just, you know, in general when you're talking about it, so you just have to be mindful.
Yeah, that person you're speaking to, that person's door that you knocked could have had like 6 abortions.
Yeah.
How do you get that person to understand and value the sanctity of life?
Right,
I think
right.
that's the question that we
Right.
need to be talking about, not like, oh, let's stand outside the abortion clinic. And I know people, they're good in their hearts when they do that, but when you're harassing women outside of the Planned Parenthood,
Yeah.
it's not a good look, guys. It's
Right.
just, regardless of what your sign says, regardless if you're holding candles, you know, and you're being so sweet to these women, it's not a good look, and I think people should stop doing that.
Right. So do you think this is being used as to drive the turnout because someone wants to vote for Biden?
I mean, Biden and his team are trying absolutely everything they can do, like the student loan forgiveness, right? Which is just more taxes. There's no cancellation of debt there. There's just more. I have to pay for your arts degree, so I don't know. It's gonna be all connected, right? So they're gonna do their damnedest. They are going to do their best to get young voters, new voters, right? Women out, because I'm pretty sure in a previous video that we posted when the boys were talking about it, like I heard like the issue is the women, right? It's the women, and like we just can't be messaged to. I think it's scary, because you're gonna have those blue-haired, shaved head like liberals with piercings in their face screaming and barking at you, but like, man, God, Joe Biden, man, what is going on with this country? It's gonna be bad.
I know.
It's
He's
all
such a
connected.
bad candidate. You'd think that people like just obviously wouldn't vote for him, but some people think he's doing really well.
He's got this
people
issue
Yeah.
with the women. He's got this
Right.
issue with the women. And what's annoying is we saw the Trump clip. I agree with you. In those 3 instances, there's going to be an exception. I think most laws that have been implemented, I think maybe in even Alabama, there are exceptions for things like that.
Right.
There's just a morality aspect to the issue where
Definitely. Yeah, people act like it's very like black and white, but it's not. Like,
No.
You know, people aren't gonna like deny you because of like some criminal rape case. You know, like
Yeah.
that's just not gonna happen.
yeah,
You know?
and I feel like it will be a driver for some
Right.
more radical people to go out to the polls, but with our current advantage, we can't, sit back. And I think there's a saying, it's like, always act like you're 1,000 votes ahead or behind.
Right.
Always act like you're behind.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Even
it pushes you to get more, pushes you to get
Exactly.
those messages out. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Well, do you think that men can speak on this issue? Because that's always especially when like you're trying to message this out. Young conservatives are gonna be young men out there talking about this, door knocking, campaigning, or just even debating.
Yeah. Duh.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I know.
Like, it takes
That's
2 to
really-
tango.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Like,
you have a brain, you have agency. Like, I mean, I'm not Jewish, but I've gone on here and in my personal life and talked about, Jewish issues and what happened in Israel. I've
Yeah.
never even been to Israel, but I have a brain and I have
opinions on it.
opinions and perception.
Exactly.
Like I've talked about other things. Like I can't really think of an example right now, but I don't know. I'm sure you have talked about things that you like.
Yeah.
Never been somewhere, but or.
You know what?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, it's like a specifically, I think, like, man issue, like divorce court and how men are treated after divorce
yeah.
and what they have to pay in alimony and like monthly checks, and how the women quite literally don't let them see their child.
Right.
Right? I have an opinion on that.
Yeah, but according to other logic, other logic, you
So
can't.
men can have an opinion on something as a women topic as abortion, and we
Yeah.
shouldn't even call it a woman topic. It takes two to tango.
Yeah, it's a life topic.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
And like it's the responsibility, right?
Mm.
Right? Like if I'm holding women responsible, then baby daddy's got to be responsible too.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. Like, sorry, I know Obama back in the day said that, oh, young women who are on these welfare programs with food stamps, they don't need no man. And it doesn't matter if they have so many kids because they're doing it themselves and they're independent women and they don't need no man.
Possibly, but that would be extremely emotionally and mentally hard.
Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're
Don't
joking.
quite agree with that.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to bar men from this topic, especially.
Yeah.
What do you think the men are going to say?
About abortion?
I guess it depends, but
Yeah,
like,
it depends.
if
but-
your boyfriend is saying get an abortion, leave him. Like, I don't.
Yeah, that's not the best thing. That's not the best. That you might need to find someone else to date.
Yeah.
If it came to that.
And it stinks that you made those choices and those decisions, but
Right,
it's not
mistakes
your
happen,
body.
but yeah, exactly.
I understand that it is in your body and it's like a vital aspect to grow, but that's a potential life that is not yours.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's not yours.
definitely. All right, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in November when this goes on the ballot, particularly in Florida.
Yeah, get out there and start talking about like the sanctity of life and how
Right.
important it is to love thy neighbor, even if you don't say it like that, right?
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. All right, well, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Make sure to subscribe and comment. We'll see you at the next episode. All right, bye.
Bye.